Hello, you, Teddy. Okay, so today is Monday Fun Day, October 17th, 2022, and it is time for another Adroit Living on Erudition Network. So last week I gave you a challenge. I don't know who's all, doing the challenge or whatever. Thank you, Sean Anthony. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to reiterate to you what the challenge was. So the challenge last week was sometimes people they have times when they're losing their memory and they don't really know how to um, help to stop the deterioration of the memory to keep the brain lively and young and healthy and remembering things. So I presented a challenge and I'll reiterate that to you, give people a little bit more time to come on in so you don't miss it. So people come on in, come on in. Remember, these shows are recorded. So I mean, it's the digital age. Isn't everything recorded? I mean, it's like you got to kind of assume everything, no matter what you're doing, it's being recorded. Unless you're in your room and you know that there's no cameras in there, you might want to check. Might want to check. Get the flower pot, check the flower pot, cover everything. Just cover everything when you don't want to be seen. But anyway, so that's just my little joke. I don't know if everything's being recorded, but in the digital age that we live in now, it would not surprise me. I know I, for one, like to keep a digital record of things, mainly because I really do like to study and learn. And a major asset has been like, when you go to college, you have the little tape recorders in there recording, whatever the lecture is, you know, the various lectures. And some people, they'll put a recorder in there, they'll go to sleep because, hey, I'm here, because you can fast forward and play on fast forward or whatever. Because some of those lectures, it's like, man, I'm trying to stay awake, but I didn't make it. I didn't make it. So once it got quiet, now I know. Oh wait, yeah, I was listening, and then you just pause the recorder so you can listen to it at your convenience at a speed that you can tolerate. You know. So anyway, I don't want nobody talking to me and they talking all slow and uh, Parker, Parker. Like wait, not pass. Hey, Sean Anthony, thank you for helping today and thank you for being in the show in the comments. Please do comment, um, you know, throughout the show. That'll be helpful. Um, uh, so today, I don't know, maybe maybe today we'll do something different. But I definitely want to get back to the challenge. The challenge was to help build critical thinking skills as a method of keeping the brain young and keeping your memory fresh and able. Just keep your brain able to do the things that it's doing so you can warn off the deterioration of your memory, such as, oh, where did I put my keys? Oh, they're right there in my left hand, and my phone is in the right. So, how many times have you looked for your cell phone and it was right there in your hand? So, I know I'm not the only one. Nobody's perfect, but I know I'm not the only one that's like, where's my phone? Where's my phone? I got everything in my arms trying to get out the door. Where's my phone? Oh, it's in my hand. So, pardon me, my voice is still trying to recuperate from having COVID. No, I don't have long COVID. I think it's just taking quite a while before I can really get completely away from it. But I'm feeling so much better, except for the fatigue, the voice, that's still there. But I'm working through it. So I haven't been on Pro Tips Wednesdays because, again, my voice, I'm still trying to recuperate, but we will get back to Pro Tips Wednesdays. But the challenge was for you to watch the shows and see if you could comment during, like, the first time that you watch the show, you have a different perspective than the second time when you watch the same episode. And then the third time is the real challenge, because now you have to come up with a perspective that you didn't have both the other times that you watched the same show. Why is that helpful? Well, because we talk about different things on my show where I'm talking about mental health and things that can help you build a more desirable perspective on life, so that you can deal with all the things that's going on in life, which can be difficult because there's so much going on, especially during the pandemic, or maybe we're not in the pandemic, or whatever is going on. Mental health is a serious thing that's trending right now. A lot of people are trying to deal, but they don't have the funds to deal, and a lot of people don't know um, that they should deal with it or address it, instead of just blowing it off and saying, well, there's nothing wrong with me, or this is common because everybody is doing it, or everybody has this problem. So a lot of times people don't realize how to address those things. So we address that on the show. um, and if you were to watch it and have a thought the very first time you watch it, and challenge yourself to watch it again and have a different thought, a different perspective, it's not only going to help you think critically, but it's also going to help you to open up your mind to a different understanding, be more receptive to something that maybe you can't change, but maybe you can learn how to reach out to someone that can help you to change it. And the third time you watch it is the major challenge, because now this gives you the opportunity to come outside of all of those thoughts that you had before the two times you watched it previously, and say, you know what? You just helped yourself. So a lot of times the best therapy is self therapy. So that's another aspect of the challenge that you may find useful once you implement that challenge. So I'm definitely looking forward to hearing in the comments about how some people have used that technique and how it has helped them with different other aspects that they may not have previously thought about before actually implementing the challenge. Now, sometimes I'll say something and it has multiple uses. I may not point them all out because this show is only an hour, and I know an hour is like a long time, but when you really think about it, all the information that's being put into there and all the effort, then you'll start to see, like, man, maybe it wasn't a long time. But again, challenge yourself to do that. And any other show that's positive perspective and helpful, something constructive, so that you can have thoughts about what's happening, so you could rethink something else. For example, I use the aquarium as an example because within that hobby is so many ways you can be creative and do the same thing that someone else did, but a different way, and be more creative than the last person. And then you'll come up with something that you need to patent, and it's like, man, not only did I enjoy myself and I figured out something, but now I have something that I can patent and make money from. So a lot of times we may be looking at something and we're looking at it with blinders on, because we're so focused in on the one aspect that was mentioned. But critical thinking skills, what it does is, when you're thinking, you're going into something thinking, okay, I'm going to build my critical thinking skills. This is opening up the avenue for you to have creative thinking, for you to have out of the box thinking, for you to have exploration thinking, so you can feel differently about what's going on. And it gives you the ability to free yourself up to make mistakes. Sometimes, like when I'm in school, when I'm studying as the student, I feel like it's a safe environment for me to make mistakes. It's a safe environment for me to ask questions for help. It's a safe environment for me to say, hey, I'm not really understanding what you're saying. Can you explain what it is you mean by when you say this? So it's like, it gives you permission to let your guard down and say, hey, slow down. What are you saying? Instead of saying, well, If I get it wrong, I'll apologize, but I'm not going to ask for permission. So a lot of times when you have to have that go get 'em spirit, that go get 'em attitude, and you just got to go do whatever you have to do in this life, you may say, I'm not going to ask for permission if I offend somebody or I do something wrong. I'll just apologize. But a lot of times people like that, they want to have an opportunity where they're in an environment where that's not what they that's not their go-to attitude. So again, a lot of times we're thinking one way with blinders on, and it's various atmospheres that we can be in that can put our minds in a particular way where we can feel more comfortable thinking in different ways. Like for me, I can think when I'm in, have to set mentality, the role of a student. Where and some people they say, well, they're a manager, so they don't care what anybody else is saying as long as it's not their boss. So, hey, it's different. It depends on the atmosphere. And I remember one of the shows I posted, I stated that some people only want to be receptive of things and information, new information, or knowledge and wisdom when they're in a particular environment. For example, I said, if I was in a pulpit, you would know that you just received the message. You just received the word that's going to edify you in a profound manner that you may not understand right now, but as time goes by, you'll understand it better by and by. But when you're out and about, you don't expect to receive something so profound that it, as you digest it over time, that, oh, this is edifying me in ways that I never thought. So you have to, watch the show and, just be open to being receptive to whatever it is that's happening instead of having, one perspective. So that is a part of the challenge that will help your memory and your critical thinking skills. Hello, Matthew. Thank you for coming. Enjoy the show. Okay. And there was another show I was talking about that a man believeth, so is he. And a lot of times we don't have really good examples of it. But I thought about one the other day and I wanted to share that with you today. It's like a good example of, mind over matter and a person believing something and it manifesting itself physically. I was watching a comedy show and seeing how this comedian, she was like, oh, you know how you feel terrible and you get ready to go to the hospital and you go to the hospital because you're feeling terrible. You have these pains and aches. And then you get to the hospital and the doctor asks, how do you feel? What is your pain level? I think it's because they know that it's mind over matter. And you'll say, well, I was hurting well, well above the level that I'm hurting right this moment that you're asking me. And when I took the survey, but right now I think I'm kind of okay. It's feeling better. I don't know what it is. And it's like when people when people participate in studies, medical studies, and they give a person a placebo, which is maybe a sugar pill or something that's not exactly the thing that they're testing for. And then they give the other patients that they're testing for, they'll give them the Tylenol, whereas the other people, the placebo will be a sugar pill. And they'll say, well, how do you feel? And sometimes because mind over matter is a real thing, sometimes the placebo works even better than the actual medicine they were testing in the first place. And then that gets thrown out of the study because that's an outlier. And it's like, oh, well, we can't use that information because that's not what we're testing for. But if you go back and look at those studies create phenomena and phenomenological studies. So they go back and they study those, but it's a matter of time and focus. So they have to focus on what it is they were trying to test for. But at the same time, it's like there are studies that show that mind over matter is just what it is, what it said in the word, that a man believeth, so is he. So you go to the hospital and you talking to the doctor and you're like, man, I promise you I am in pain. I promise you it does hurt. And the doctor's like, well, it doesn't seem like it hurts, or I don't know what to prescribe for you. So I don't know what to do. And it's like, they'll never say they don't know what to do. They'll always talk to you like they got all the answers, but they don't have all the answers. They don't know, and they can only go by what you're telling them, because they definitely cannot over medicate you, because the HIPAA do no harm thing. But that's a great example of mind over matter. And a lot of times, um, if we were to keep ourselves mentally fit, mentally happy, mentally stable, then they'll be like, oh, I was feeling this way physically, but because my mind, because my mental well-being was, optimal, I don't feel physically as bad as I could feel if I did not have this mental space of positive, um, you know, spirits and positive energy and positive auras, or whatever way you want to put it. So it's very important that you we kind of focus on mental health, because it does bring physical wealth. So that's why I brought that up. I wanted to make sure I clarified that, so we have a bigger understanding about when I say something. So I go back and I watch the show and I'm like, did I say something that I should clarify? And that's what I'm trying to do, clarify. So I don't want you to think that I think anybody's magical. But a lot of times, like some people, they can take medicine. No, some people can drink alcohol. And that alcohol, they can hold their liquor. Some people say, I can hold my liquor, I can hold my liquor. And they can drink you under a table and they could be fine. And you stumbling drunk, you like wasted. You can't even talk. You can't move. Somebody got to pick you up and take you where you're going, or take you over their house so that you can, wake up in the morning. And they praying you wake up and not have to take you to the hospital. But some people, they can hold it, because really it's mind over matter. They don't feel it the way you're feeling it. Some people, they're not as emotional as you are, because again, mentally, they're just not mentally there. Whereas you may be mentally and emotionally tied into whatever it is, and you're looking at that person like, how can you not be um, reacting this way, the same way I'm reacting, and this is involving you and this is involving me? How can you react in such a cool, calm, collected manner? That's because mind over matter. It's mental. They're in a positive mental space. Even if you look at them and you like, I know your life is hell, but you sitting here, you cool, you calm, collected, while you watching the world burn, and you are not even emotional about it, and you're not as emotional as I am about it. Well, a lot of times that's because, yeah, people are in a different mental space. So if we can all get in a positive mental headspace, imagine how much better um, the world will be. Imagine how, we will be able to de-escalate arguments when they come up. And a lot of times we're around people who just petty, and they're like, man, petty Patty is out here. The petty Patty spirit is on me. I'm just gonna be just as petty and messy as everybody else. So yeah, that, if it would be nicer if everybody had the attitude that, hey, I'm just gonna go out here and um have a positive attitude as well, and see where that gets me. And you'll see that gets you much further than it does with anything else. Yeah, Maddie, I see it's frozen. Yeah, Ty, I see it's frozen and glitchy. I'm not really sure what to do, but the guys in the background, Teddy and Eddie, are back there in the background, and I'm sure Teddy is communicating with Eddie, and they're trying to figure out what's pulling on the energy. There's been some things going on with the network a lot lately. So being in the healing stage, from healing from COVID, it's like, oh, kind of slacking a little bit, kind of slacking, but we're trying to get it back. So that's why I'm not having guests on right now too, because we're still trying to get back in the groove of things and get make sure that the internet is stable, everything's going well. So bear with us while we do these little test runs. um, but I also saw something on the internet. I was watching the news, and I was like, there was this woman, and she was being criticized about gender identity for a young family member. So, like, if a parent assigns the gender to their child, it can be distressing for the child. And that's a perspective that a lot of people just don't watch when they're looking at the news. They don't watch it and see that perspective. Like, how is this going to impact the child as the child grows older? Now, I remember when I was a little girl, I did not want to be a little girl. I don't know how many people that know me knows that, but I'm a real big tomboy. Like, a lot of the things that I do are so tomboyish. It's like, are you sure you're a girl? I'm certain I'm a girl. But when I was a little girl, I was like the only girl in my circle. I wanted to be like my peers. I wanted to be like everybody that was around me, and none of them were girls. So it's like, and I remember, being even younger than that, before I could tell the difference between males and females. I saw there was a big difference between the way the men behaved and the women, and the reaction in the room that occurred when the men stepped in the room, as opposed to when the women stepped in the room. And sometimes you could look at that and you could say, man, I want to command that sort of authority when I step into a room, when I walk outside, when I go wherever I'm going. And that could be the mentality that's feeding that idea or that concept that, I don't know if I want to be a little girl. I wanted to bail out of swings. I wanted to swing, go to the park. We would go to the park, and the swing would go high, and they would loop the swing all the way around the pole. And I was like, I want to do that. I want to do that. I didn't have the guts to do that. So, but I still wanted to do it. And I wanted to bail out of swings, but I didn't have the guts to do it. So I wait till that swing get down just a little bit and jump out. But I still, I was scared, and I just didn't want. So it's like we want a whole lot of things. And it's like we don't have the ability to have the foresight to understand how this is going to affect us later, what this is going to do to us later. And I think I forget the celebrity that was talking to the parent, and he was saying, you know, a lot of times the youth, they have this being pushed on them where they have to choose, and they have to make a decision. Like, a lot of times when kids say, well, what school do you want to go to? I don't know. And then they go home, they talk to their parents, and their parents say, well, yeah, what school do you want to go to? And now the pressure is really on, because now you're getting it at outside and at home. So it's like, when you have so many decisions already in your life, the last thing you want to have to do is keep being pressured about things like gender, gender role expectancy, um, and gender identity. So it's definitely understandable how that celebrity was trying to give the parent a different perspective on what a child is probably going through, when you have to be the one in control of assigning an identity or a gender role to this child. So it's very understandable that sometimes you have a peer group and you just want to be like your peers. You don't want to be African American. You don't want to be Hispanic. You don't want to speak Spanish, English. You don't want the labels. You just don't want any more labels. You just want to be and enjoy what you're doing and find your way without pressure, especially pressure from home, because you have to be able to rest somewhere. That's why a lot of people, they go in their room, they close the door, and they don't want to be bothered. And then you're looking like, what did I do? No pressure, just no more pressure. So I can definitely understand the perspective of what the celebrity was saying to the mom. And I could definitely, as a mother, understand the perspective of what that mother was trying to say and how she was feeling. And um, I can appreciate both perspectives. But a lot of times, we we should just back off and let kids be kids. Let them do whatever they're gonna do and support whatever they want to do. For example, I have friends and I'm like, honey, if you rocking with that person, I'm rocking with that person. When you no longer rocking with that person, I'm gonna respect that, and we won't bring it up no more. I'm not gonna throw it in your face, no pressure. You don't have to even worry about it. And it's like, that's the kind of feeling everybody wants to have. That's the kind of feeling everybody wants to enjoy, because that's the kind of mentality that puts you in a positive mental headspace where you can say, man, I'm comfortable, I'm all right, instead of being extremely emotional because it's so many choices and then there's so many consequences of all the decisions you're making, on top of the pressure that you feel for having to do everything. So I can definitely relate to the LGBTQ community for so many reasons, but I've mentioned a couple. But that one right there, that may be a little surprise. Um, what you say, Matthew? I accept my labels unless there's something false. That's true. You that's fine. You can feel comfortable accepting your labels that people put on you. But one thing you have to understand is that just because somebody give you a label and they say something about you like, oh, you're poor, oh, you're stupid, oh, whatever it is, you have to understand that those labels don't define you, because the thing that I said, outliers, an outlier is, okay, I put this label on you and I said that you're stupid, you're short, you're ugly, you're fat, all these labels. And what you do is, instead of accepting those labels desirable to not maybe, but accept it. Like, this is something I want to change. This is something I want to improve. This is something that I can do better with. This is so it's not necessarily to say that it's a lie or it's false, or it's sometimes people point out things to you, and it's not necessarily something that you have to accept, more so than it's something like, oh, okay, I could do better with that. Oh, okay, you thought I was stupid, that's fine, I appreciate your feedback. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come at you next time with something else, and I'm gonna show you just how stupid I am. So then you come back and you're like, you talking with them and they're like, oh, I didn't know you knew that. Well, where'd you get that information from? How did you know that? Well, you didn't help me. You thought I was stupid. You gave me a label that was false. I didn't accept that. I did what I had to do in the moment. And a lot of times people, they get stuck with those labels and they can't get around it because it's messing with their head. And they can't think, man, this is not me. This is not me. And then but you just stay calm, don't get all riled up, and just think about it. Come from a different perspective. Play the situation back in your head and rethink it and say, I can fix that. I can improve with that. Don't just say, well, that's a label, it's false, I don't care. But think about it. What is it that you can do just a little bit better to reflect who you really are? No pressure though, but definitely you don't have to accept labels. What did you say? I hate autocorrect because when I'm typing it, yeah, autocorrect. That's why a lot of times with autocorrect, you really have to, you have to be ready to change it. You know, read before you post, or instead of read before you post, just go ahead and say, "Oh well, I did that, but I can't anymore." So, uh, there's a glitch with the comments, Teddy. I'm gonna need you to fix that because it's stuck on the screen now. But anyway, um, a lot of times when we have our mental moments where we say, well, I don't really want to be a girl. When I was little, I said, oh, I don't want to be a girl. I want to be like the boys. I want to do like the boys are doing. And it's like, you can do what the boys are doing, and you don't have to accept that because you're labeled as a girl, or because, yes, you are a girl, that you're only able to do what girls do. I didn't want to wear a skirt. And like people looking at my legs, I didn't want to be hit on and flirted with. And, I wanted to be, left alone to just grow and do what I'm going to do, like the guys were, So it's like more so finding out what is the desirable thing about the label that you want, that makes you say, oh, I don't like being a girl. I want to be just like the guys. I found out what it was about the guys that I liked, because I certainly like guys in the perspective of being in a romantic situation with a guy. And I'm like, well, yeah, so I'm definitely not, I don't want to be a guy, but I definitely don't want all those stigmas that come with being a girl. I don't want to be the damsel in distress. I don't want to be the girl where, oh, she don't know what she's talking about. Just ignore her. Just ignore her. oh, that's a woman. Don't be worried about that. Those were the things, the dismissive things that I didn't want, that came with that label. And it's historical, but it's also other women out here that have led the way, that that is not necessarily the label that women should have, or a label that should stick to a woman just because she's a woman. You could be strong and independent, but you can have a man that's definitely, the head of your house, and he's definitely pulling you along. But outside of you all having, um, being with him, it's like, oh, I'm still strong, I'm still independent, even though I can depend on my mate, even though I can have someone that I'm crawling into bed with, and being comfortable cuddling, or being supported by this person. It's like, just because you're strong and independent doesn't mean you have to be strong and independent all the time. You can have your strong and independence labels, and still be all right having a label as being a woman or a man. So it's like we have to find, what are those things in those labels that I like? What are the things in those labels that I do not like and I want to change? Because as we keep learning and growing, America isn't that old. We're all learning and growing. And it's like, if you content with having a label that says it is defining you, that's fine. That's fine. But if you're not content with having a label that defines you, and there's something about that label that you want to change, change it. It doesn't have to say that these are your limits, these are your boundaries, and you have to stick with this. You can change and do whatever your mind sets you to do. For example, some people say, oh, well, I could run fast. Before somebody decided to time me, I was running really fast. And now that somebody's time me, I can't run fast. It's like that. It's like that in every aspect of your life when somebody puts labels on you. So what you want to do, you want to find out what it is about the label that you don't like. I don't like for anybody to time me when I run, because if I run, I want to be free of running. So there we are. It says StreamYard is having an issue streaming. You may have to jump and glitches during the. Okay, because we have definitely witnessed some, and it is very distracting. And I'm trying to keep on pressing on through it. But again, like I said, we're still trying to get back into the groove of things. So we appreciate you all bearing with us. But I know it's some people out there that have a very clear understanding of what I'm talking about, because you've lived through it and you're probably going through it now. And it's like, yeah, I want to do more, but they have me labeled as this, and I can't do anything more because I'm stuck with this label. You can do whatever you want to do. And what they'll do is, even in studies, you can you can okay, even in a study, how say in statistics, they'll take that one thing out like it's an outlier because it's above the norm. You can always be above the norm. Everybody doesn't fit into that little box. And it's okay that you don't fit into that box. But the more of us who don't fit into that box, they have to get rid of that box, or they have to change the label. So I don't want, what is Matthew saying? You got flagged. I'm so sorry you got flagged. I couldn't talk. So that's why I wasn't talking this much. That's all right, Matthew. You all right, honey. Thank you for watching and commenting. So it's it, so you can I'm trying to get back to my train of thought. But it's like, some people, they feel like just because somebody put me in a box, somebody put a label on me, that you're bound to that. And so many oftentimes we have seen that people are not, they're not sticking to that label. They're not playing by the game, by the rules of the game. They're changing things. And it's like, the more you see that, you say, man, I wish I'd have thought of that. Man, I had that idea, but I didn't see it through like that person is seeing it through. I didn't do that person did. Now imagine how you would feel if you knew that you didn't have to stay in that box. Imagine if you understood that just because you got labeled one thing doesn't mean that that's your label, that you have to get stuck in, that you have to get left in that status. You don't you don't have to get left there. For example, um, I grew up on the south side of Chicago, but did I stay labeled as a south side Chicago chick? No, I didn't. I went around the suburbs. I went and played uh, in each one of the different types of suburbs. I went to different schools. I did other things. So I had different labels, but I didn't get stuck in those labels. It says, if you are kicked off of Facebook, please join us on YouTube. So if you're watching this video on YouTube, you won't get kicked off by Facebook. Facebook is probably like, you all haven't been on for a long time. We're just gonna kick you. It wasn't our fault. We got sick, and there was no way we could be on because we didn't have a voice. I'm still struggling every now and again with my voice. So there that is. But a lot of times, I would get a label, and I didn't like that label because I didn't think that that label was fitting. So I would move around and move around. And the more I moved around, the more the labels would change. For example, if I was on the south side of Chicago, then it's like, oh, you a south side girl, you rough, you gonna handle your business. But then when I went to the suburbs and I was playing in the suburbs and had friends and everything in the suburbs, they was like, oh, you a suburban chick, you don't know nothing about the real life, the real world, or whatever. And then it's like the same thing with schools. I went to what was it? It was a junior college, but I already had my college credits from being in high school, so I was already a sophomore in college, well, close to being a sophomore in college when I went to the junior college. But I went to the junior college, and everybody was like, "Oh, well, you don't know nothing. You don't know nothing. This just junior college. This just like high school and whatever." So there's again was another label. Then I began to attend UIC downtown Chicago, and suddenly, again, it was another label. And it's like, I started to think more and more about these labels. And I'm like, these labels, they don't mean anything to me because it doesn't define me. It's not telling anybody who I am, what I do, and what I like. It's not saying anything. So I stopped listening to those labels, and I started thinking critically about what it is I want people to see at me, not see my labels and see what I'm doing, see what I'm wearing, see how I'm doing my hair, what kind of jewelry I'm wearing today, what kind of car I'm driving. How can I make it so people can see me instead of my labels? And that's one of the things that a lot of different communities want. The communities that I'm talking about are the LGBTQ community, the community of people who have needs that are a little bit more extraordinary than the norm. Um, for example, autistic people, people who have various limbs missing or disabilities for whatever the reasons, people that's collecting a check, y'all on SSI. Everybody wants to be seen as just them. They don't want to be seen as, oh, you collect a check, oh, you have some sort of a handicap or disability, or you have some sort of label that is tagged as being undesirable, and nobody wants to deal with you because there's some people out here that will deal with you. For example, when I was working as a realtor and a notary, and um, I would do debt collecting and refinance and give home loans out to people that nobody else would touch because they didn't have enough money, their credit was low, or whatever was going wrong with them. So a lot of times when you overlook that label, and that's just what I've done all my life, even when I was working in Chicago with DCFS and tutoring through DCFS in Chicago. You don't, you have to look past those labels because every time those people would surprise me. There was people's, peers my peer group would say, well, you're wasting your time. You're wasting your time. Why are you being bothered with that? Why you could be doing this? You could be doing that. You're supposed to be over here doing that because you're part of the in crowd. You're part of this. And I would always explain that, yeah, that's great, but I kick it with y'all for a little bit, and then I would, get away from them. And this is what I would do. I would go back to those people who nobody else wanted to deal with, and they would surprise me every time. The children that was told that they were too stupid for school, they were on the honor roll. Nobody knew how they got there, and because I don't say anything about the things that I do, um, and people who wouldn't get loans and couldn't get refinancing and couldn't get a good rate that they can handle, I would be the one that would notarize whatever it was that they needed and issue out the loans and consolidate the debt, regardless of what anybody else told them they could not do. So they felt like they didn't have any other choices. So when I did do that for them, they were able to excel, become that. They were able to make of it what they bound and restricted them to. So that's why I do the things that I do. I don't really talk about it because a lot of times you'll look at TikTok and it's like people are bragging about the things that they're doing, especially when they're working with particular communities that nobody else wants to deal with. Um, yeah, Matthew, don't worry about it. And the whole stream is acting funny. Yeah, it's all acting funny. So whomever else is watching the show and trying to comment, please be aware. StreamYard is acting a little funny today. But a lot of times we feel like we're stuck in a label and we're stuck in a place, we're stuck in a rut that we can't get out of. And the answer is you're not stuck. You're not stuck. Keep on pressing on, keep on trying, keep on putting your best foot forward. And those people who are a lot like me, your people are telling you, oh no, you're not a part of that crowd. You should be over and holding yourself up to be in a more elite status than that you are holding yourself to. And by not doing that, then you're belittling yourself and devaluing yourself. So we're gonna devalue you as well. Don't worry about that. Continue to help those people who have these undesirable labels, because you never know where you're going to be at the end of the day. There's some football players, for example, and they were the top of the game. Everybody loved them. Everybody knew them. And then when they had traumatic brain syndrome, because all those blunts to the head that they took, all the concussions that they had, and now they're no longer playing football. They're not on the top of their game anymore. And now a lot of times people, they don't realize it, but they end up, as impoverished as a lot of other people that they were tricked to say ignore or mistreat because they weren't in the elite status. So no matter what you do, don't let anybody fool you to say, well, you're the elite status. You don't have to deal with those people. You come over here and be with us. Because I didn't see any of those people. Now I've kept track of some of the stuff because I like the NFL and I like NBA, and I like to see, certain things and follow up. Whatever happened to this person or that person? And I see, and it's heartbreaking because it's like all those people who said they love that person, all those people who said that they were elite status, why are they no longer elite status anymore? Why they don't fool with them no more? So if you love on people, period, regardless of their label, regardless of what anybody tells you that they're in the category of you can't socialize with this person because they're not on your level, whatever, don't do that, because you never know at the end of your day when it's all said and done where you're going to be. So I always challenge people with this second challenge I'm going to give you. Forget about the labels. Look past the labels. Fool with them, help them, be nice to them, this friend them. That's what I'm saying when I say fool with them, rock with them, roll with them. You'll be surprised. And I've seen a lot of people, for example, some people who have cerebral palsy, some people who have Asperger's. I've seen them excel to be um, a lot more normal than a lot of the normal people I've seen. And I'm like, man, you pretty cool. You cooler than a lot of the other people. And that makes them feel better. And speaking that kind of life into them, it's like that's what it was. You see, that's what it was all along. It was the mind over matter. But you have to speak life into them. And as you speak in life into them, you'll start to realize, like they say in some songs, as I minister to you, I minister to myself. You feed in yourself when you speak in life to those people who nobody else want to rock with. So be encouraged that even if you have an elite status, don't think that you're above people who don't have an elite status. Rock with them, roll with them, be kind to them, build them up, speak life, because that might be the same person that go out there, have a great thought, a great idea, go out there, patent something and give you the credit because you was fooling with them, you was rocking with them, and they was like, man, you made me think of something, and now this is what I did. I created this, and then I patented, and now I'm rich, and I want to give you the honor that you do for helping me when I didn't have nobody else. There's nobody that can pay me enough money that brings that same type of joy when somebody says that to me. So I'm like, I don't mind not getting paid the amount of money that I feel like people say, oh, you should be paid XYZ, and this is how much you should, because it does not give you the same amount of fulfillment and joy and rejuvenate your spirit the way it does when somebody is saying, nobody else would have fooled with me, but you did. Nobody else showed me any love, but you did. And it's like, oh, not only did you not show me love, but you didn't want nothing from me. So many times people, they show love only if, you're giving them something back. Only if you're having sex with them, only if you letting them touch you and do things, and it's favor for a favor, quid pro quo. You're doing things for something. And it's like some people, and again, that's another label, because these labels have expectations to them. And you don't have to be a part of that, because you're not the only one who's not a part of that. So stay encouraged to be outside of the box, be outside the label, see the people for who they are and what they are. And once you see that label, give them a chance. Give them a chance and let them show you. Let them show you who they really are and what they're capable of. And then once you see them beyond their label, that is what you have to walk away with, the understanding that that's what they are and that's who they are. But don't worry about the government titles and government labels and all these labels and stigmas that people are in, because people have a tendency of surprising you. So look at things outside of the blinders. A lot of the times we don't realize that there's a blinder there. But sometimes when we say things like, oh, you have a stereotype, oh, you have a bias, you have a perspective that someone else gave you, and this is the perspective that you see this person in, this is the capacity that you see this person in. So challenge yourself. Do you see this person? You don't need nobody to tell you how you see somebody. Do you see this person as this label? And don't go around, trying to say, well, I knew that that's what it was, because that's all you'll ever see is, oh, they told me that you're a terrible person. They told me that you're so miserable. They told me that you're cantankerous, angry, and bitter and argumentative. They said, don't look at it by what other people tell you, as if you need anybody else to tell you what to think or how to feel and how to respond and react to somebody. I don't know where that came from. Like people will say, well, you shouldn't mess with that person. You shouldn't be around that person because that person. Who are those people to tell you who you should be around and what you should think about somebody? Because that person reacted to you in the way that they reacted to you because they didn't like you, or whatever the rapport was between y'all. It has nothing to do with the rapport between them. But take it with a grain of salt. If somebody that you know and respect their opinion is trying to tell you and warn you about something, yeah, then take that advice. But if you're going to find out for yourself, be cautious. That is what that word is. It's a word of caution. Take it and let it edify you as you continue to explore the relationships that you explore. There was some people who say things about people's relationships, and it's like, oh, you're always picking the wrong partner. You're always picking the wrong mate. And people take that in such a derogatory manner that they can't learn from it. They can't grow from it. And the person who's giving that kind of critique isn't aware that they can't hear what's being said because of the way they're being approached. So sometimes it's up to us not to look at things with blinders on and be more receptive to the bigger picture and think about it a little bit more critically. Why did this person say I'm always picking the wrong person? Is it because I have a whole bunch of different unsuccessful relationships? And think about those relationships. Accept your part in it, but also accept the fact that some things you cannot control. Even if the fault is yours, you may not be able to control it. But the more you become aware about the fact that is on, you're sticking to labels and you're pushing a label that people may not appreciate, some people may not find desirable. Examine yourself. That's one of the things that I do because as a church girl, that's what I grew up under. And the Bible would always say, examine yourself. And when you examine yourself, it's a lot of times coming from critique, like, somebody telling you, you always pick the wrong mate, you always in a different relationship. You start to think about those things with a bit more critical thinking skills than you had before you were in the relationship that didn't work out. So let it grow you, let it edify you, and listen to when people are telling you you're always in a bad relationship. Because sometimes what it is we didn't learn. We didn't learn what it was that we have to learn so we can grow from it. So be receptive to the feedback and take the feedback with a grain of salt, because it could also be that that person jealous because you didn't have five romantic partners when they can't even get one. So you also have to consider the source. Is that person just jealous because you going through mate after mate after mate and they can't even get one person interested? So you definitely have to consider the source. And it's not to say that just because you're going out from mate to mate to mate that you're even having sexual contact with these people. It's just to say that you're in a situation where somebody is taking interest in you because it's you, period. Not because you're having sex with them, not because you want to have sex, not because you promise to have sex, not because you promise to give them anything. I know, right, Ty? And it's like some people, they just like you because you cool. They like you because you know how to dress, you know how to have fun, you know how to make fun happen for you in your presence, even though the situation was boring, even though nobody told you what to do or how to act. You just know, and it just naturally clicks for you. So you just draw more attention from mates and potential mates than some other people do. And instead of criticizing those people, thinking that they're having sex with everybody they get in contact with or everybody that likes them, think about, why do they like you? Think about, why is it that this person is attracting a lot of mates, and what it is about you that you could change or improve to attract the type of mate that you want to attract. Because it might be that you're not attracting any mates because the person that wants you has already decided that's what they want. They're trying to build up the courage to come to you with the idea that they want to be with you as far as a mate. Matthew says, off topic yet, but let's say you're in a car and you're finna crash. What do you do in your last moments? And depending on your answer, it could change your outcome. You know what? A lot of times we don't know what's going to happen and we'll make a decision, but sometimes we can get a second chance to make a decision. So if you're looking at somebody through their label, you can be in a position where you have the opportunity to look at them beyond their label. And if you don't get that opportunity and you messed up, at the very least, acknowledge it back to that person. Go back to that person and say, I was wrong to say what I said, and I'm really sorry, but I wish you well. Even if you never talk to that person again, and if you haven't talked to that person in a long time, acknowledge it to that person, not just to yourself, so that if your paths cross again, y'all will be cool, because really, sometimes we don't even know how we are putting someone else in an undesirable mental head space. But if we were to go back and acknowledge to the person that we have wronged, acknowledge to the person who we may have put into a negative headspace, you don't know how that'll help them, help you, and just help the environment to stay calm and safe. Because a lot of times it's not just the one person that said something negative to a person that made them fly off the handle. It was a matter of the fact that too many people said something to that person that put that person in a mental space of darkness and no return. So I would definitely challenge you to look past people's labels and don't feel compelled if you're a parent to a child. Don't feel compelled to give label. Support them whatever way they grow, continue to develop, and don't let them make permanent decisions for temporary feeling. Now, they may have that feeling for 5 years, 10 years. Don't let children make permanent decisions, because children don't have the ability to have the foresight to understand all the intricacies that come along with their decisions. It's not a car crash, and even if it is a car crash, what if you survive the car crash? There's consequences and there's other things that come along with it. So if you have the opportunity, look past the labels and don't put labels on anyone. And just, if you love them, that's the only label that matters. Just love them. And if you can, not just love them, but definitely show them that you are human and you make mistakes and you don't know it all. And that's what I tell my kids all the time. I'm like, I'm human. I make mistakes. I don't know it all. You got to help me as I'm helping you. And it took them many years to understand what I was saying, because I'm mom. I'm super mom. I know all the answers to their homework. So I know all their friends, and I remember people, that they dealing with, and they don't see that I'm only human. They don't see, oh, mom's a student, mom's teaching, mom's tutoring, mom's this. They don't see. They only see from their perspective, and you never really know what their perspective is until they're old enough to be able to communicate what their perception of you was. So, I'm just encouraging you to understand that labels, we got to get rid of those. We just got to love. That's the only label that counts. And the fact that we all have free will and can't nobody change that, even if it was a law, no one can change your free will. So just love the people. And even if you have to love them from a distance, because you have to respect the distance that people put you at, even if you are able to love them up close, don't smother them with all that affection and love and time and attention, but just find a good balance and don't push any other label other than letting them know, I love you, um, you're enough, and no matter what, if you like it, I like it. If you love it, I love it. If you don't want to be bothered with it anymore, I'm not going to judge you. So there that is. That's my time for today. And I want to thank everyone for being here. And remember those challenges. Watch the video, watch the episode. Yes, I do jump subjects, but I bring it back and tie it all together. And if you haven't caught that, that's one of the things you might want to rewind and watch it again, so you can see how all of those things are interconnected and related, so you can have the best mental health. And when you finish uh, watching these videos and rewatching it and having those different perspectives, those three different perspectives, definitely hit me in the comments and tell me what was it that you thought, the first thought, second thought, and the third, so I can see how your mentality changed throughout your attempts of watching it. So that's my show for today. I'll see you Monday, maybe Wednesday, because my voice didn't crack as much this time. But yeah, my voice, it does keep going in and out. And I'm really happy that I was able to keep it this time. But that's my show for today. You all have enjoy the rest of your day and your week. We appreciate you coming, and please like, subscribe, and share. And remember, um, for for those people who don't know, when I say mental health is physical wealth, I really do mean it. Mental health is physical wealth. So you enjoy your day.